The feds just obliterated a Hells Angels crew secretly tied to cartel drug pipelines in Chicago, and it all blew up because of one anonymous tip. What agents uncovered next sent shockwaves through law enforcement, and it's nothing like what anybody expected. Finally, the break that investigators had been waiting for came in earlier this month as federal agents initiated a massive multi-state sting targeting biker-run stash houses, cartel-linked distribution hubs, and phony shell companies acting as narcotics fronts.
Deputies arrested all 14 suspects who were either part of the Hells Angels or Hermanos Unidos motorcycle gangs.
Using warrants obtained from intercepted communications between cartel couriers and known Hells Angels associates, the feds raid properties across Illinois, California, Michigan, and the Pacific Northwest. They seize hundreds of kilograms of narcotics, dozens of illegal weapons, stacks of cash, but most importantly, they find encrypted phones used for coordinating shipment arrivals and distribution schedules. That is their smoking gun.
Through 4 countries and led to the arrest and search warrants, which were executed Saturday.
The data links Angels chapters to cartel suppliers across the border. And to everyone's surprise, this network stretches far beyond the Midwest. It extends into Canada, where the Angels are especially powerful, and into Europe and Australia, major destinations in the global meth market. Federal prosecutors conduct dozens of arrests. Multiple Hells Angels members face racketeering, drug trafficking, weapons charges, and conspiracy counts. Their allies across the border are also arrested, including the cartel members they work with. For the first time in years, a major biker cartel pipeline feeding Chicago is dismantled. The feds then decided to expand Operation Iron Horse as the DEA mobilizes regional task forces, pulls in state police, and has multiple U.S. attorneys' offices file sealed indictments on the same day.
An alleged member of the Hells Angels motorcycle club appeared in federal court this afternoon.
His arrest follows yesterday's FBI raid of a North Providence mill complex where he lives.
The strategy is to hit everyone, everywhere, all at once before anyone can run. Because if there's one thing the feds learned fighting the Hells Angels for decades, it's that the club never operates alone. When one chapter goes down, others kick into overdrive. They move money, hide members, destroy evidence, and they do it fast. This time, the feds make sure they don't get the chance.
Broad daylight shooting 2 years ago that investigators say happened because of a fight between the Hells Angels and another man.
Within days of the Chicago bust, federal agents executed coordinated raids in Arizona, Nevada, Washington State, and Northern California. Several of these locations turn out to be shell company fronts, salvage yards, motorcycle repair shops, logistics offices, and even an abandoned farm that agents discover has been converted into a fentanyl conversion site. The most shocking discovery comes from a warehouse in Northern California, where agents find industrial pill press machines capable of manufacturing thousands of fentanyl pills per hour. These machines aren't owned by cartel operators. They are signed under the name of a restoration company, which after deeper investigation, turns out to be a fully controlled Hells Angels business front. The Angels aren't just distributing cartel products, they are manufacturing it as well. The cartel provides the precursors, and the Angels take over from there. But no region feels the impact like Chicago. Experts have long warned that Chicago is America's perfect trafficking city. Chicago can distribute cartel products to half the country in a day. The city has a mix of street gangs, corruptible infrastructure, and major freight access points. What investigators now understand is that the Angels use Chicago as a clearinghouse city where bulk product arrives, is broken down into regional shipments, and then redistributed to biker-friendly cities across the Midwest and East Coast.
Bakersfield chapter of the Hells Angels have been ordered to stand trial on charges including robbery and assault.
One seized ledger found in Joliet Shocks Analyst. It lists coded references to Indianapolis, Detroit, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, and even Toronto, all of them connected back to Chicago. Operation Iron Horse doesn't stop with the first Chicago raid. Once agents start going through the encrypted phones, shipping logs, and digital files recovered from the warehouse, they realize the network is much larger than expected. The documents show cartel shipments hidden inside regular trucking loads, mixed with legitimate deliveries, and moved through normal interstate routes. For investigators, it confirms that illegal drugs are being moved the same way everyday products travel across the country. With this new intelligence, federal teams move fast. Within a day of the Chicago operation, warrants are executed in several states, including California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Washington. Agents raid biker clubhouses, trucking yards, storage units, and small freight offices tied to the same logistics network. The results are nearly identical everywhere they go. Narcotics, weapons, cash, and electronic devices linking these locations back to the Chicago cell and to suppliers across the border. Prosecutors later explained that much of what they find in Chicago matches information from earlier cases in San Diego, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Taken together, the evidence shows biker clubs acting as transportation and distribution partners for cartel groups operating in Mexico and Canada. Operation Iron Horse also becomes part of a larger effort by Homeland Security and the Department of Justice to track organizations that combine local gang operations with international suppliers. Under this approach, agencies now share data much more quickly, linking narcotics, money laundering, and weapons cases under one system. Officials say thousands of active cases now fall under this framework, many of them tied to cartel-connected biker groups. But the Hells Angels didn't start as a criminal empire. Known as one of the world's most notorious biker gangs, the Hells Angels have a reputation for getting the job done. When they crossed paths with one of the most powerful Mexican cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, the result was a drug distribution system so efficient that it fueled America's modern-day drug epidemic.
The search warrant turned up 15 guns, about $120,000 in cash, and Hells Angels jackets and documents.
A mountain of narcotics, a stockpile of illegal weapons, a network of stash houses and shell companies. For years, federal investigators tracked drug routes flowing from Mexico into the United States, waiting for a break. The Sinaloa cartel already had a sophisticated system, and shutting down every tunnel, courier, and smuggling route was almost impossible. But things became even worse when America's most infamous biker club, the Hells Angels, worked its way into the supply chain. Now, federal agencies were dealing with two problems: cutting off the cartel's supply line and dismantling the Angels' distribution and enforcement network without triggering the kind of retaliation the club was known for. Founded in 1948 by World War II veterans in Fontana, California, the club began as a brotherhood of men who loved the open road. As it grew, the Angels established clubhouses in city after city, eventually spreading across the United States and later across the world. In the early years, the government didn't pay much attention. They looked intimidating, sure, but beyond bar fights and biker rallies, the Hells Angels weren't yet seen as a serious threat. That changed fast. By the late 1960s and early 70s, club leaders realized they had something much more valuable than motorcycles. Wearing the patch wasn't just a symbol of brotherhood anymore. It was a symbol of respect, and more importantly, fear. The club quickly realized they could use that power to their advantage. The United States was already drowning in drugs. Cartels like Sinaloa and the Cartel de Jalisco were pumping narcotics into the country. They controlled the manufacturing, but needed muscle. The Hells Angels were perfect, so an alliance was formed. The cartel manufactured the drugs. The Angels handled transportation, distribution, intimidation, and collection once the product crossed the border. One of the most important developments was the Angels Protection Fund, a bunch of cash used to pay lawyers, bribe officials, and bail out members. Sonny Barger, the most famous figure in club history, founded the Protection Fund. The cartel's product eventually reached Chicago, one of the most profitable drug markets in North America. At the height of the epidemic, Sinaloa was supplying Chicago with so much cocaine and heroin that the city unofficially labeled Joaquin El Chapo Guzman its public enemy #1, a title not given since Al Capone. Federal officers began connecting cartel supply lines to biker-operated distribution networks. Through the 1970s and 1980s, multiple raids targeted Angels clubhouses, but the network always adapted. For a time, the Angels appeared to shift their focus toward other criminal enterprises, such as extortion. By the 2000s, the alliance reignited. U.S. intelligence noted increasing cooperation between outlaw motorcycle gangs and cartel suppliers, particularly along northern border routes and key Midwestern hubs. Chicago, with its highway networks, rail links, and massive distribution infrastructure, was the ideal location for a cartel-backed biker network. After FBI informant Anthony John Tate betrayed the club and helped bring down Sonny Barger in the late 1980s, the Angels became nearly impossible to get into. Prospects were strip-searched. Meetings were moved constantly. By the time fentanyl entered the market in the 2010s, the Angels had perfected their ways. For years, federal agencies could do nothing but watch. But the aftermath of Iron Horse changed the entire landscape. With several Hells Angels chapters disrupted, analysts notice other groups trying to move into areas where Sinaloa once dominated. These groups compete for the same routes in distribution hubs, which leads to more conflict and faster expansion whenever a major network is taken down. Operation Iron Horse shuts down a key part of the biker cartel pipeline, but it also shows how widespread and adaptive these networks are becoming. Federal agencies now treat this as an ongoing operation, focused not just on arrests, but on removing the systems that allow these alliances to function in the first place. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.